All right, and welcome back to another long-awaited episode. Boom shakalaka. It's been a minute. I'm Vincent. That's Abby. That's Emmanuel. All right. Without further ado, let's just get to it. Um, Last week, Raptors season ended. How we feeling about the season that just was? Did they overachieve? Did they underachieve? Did they properly achieve? Um, the Brandon Ingram, year one of the Brandon Ingram experiment. Like how we feeling about the rest?
I think the Raptors had a really good season, considering. I mean, I wasn't always happy throughout the year. I was definitely had my issues with Darko and some of the lineups and some of the things that were going on. I didn't think Scotty was giving us the best version of Scotty all year long, and RJ in and out with injuries, Pirtle. But in the end, they went farther than I would say most people picked them to go. Getting top six seed, playing Cleveland. Most people pick Cleveland to beat them in 4 or 5, taking it all the way to game 7. Miraculous shot by RJ to get it there. So I thought overall, I thought it was a positive season. Um, I feel good about the Raptors, and definitely there's some issues for next year, but we'll talk about that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think all things considered, I think it was a good season. Like, I think it was really hard to predict. I know some people, some most optimistic Raptors fans maybe felt like they could be top six with a healthy Brandon Ingram. For me, it just felt like an unknown. They weren't good last year, and then Brandon Ingram just has never been healthy enough for so many seasons. And so that was my concern is if we get that version where he barely plays, maybe we just look like last year's team. But yeah, the Raptors, I think they had a really good season. It started a little bit rough, but then they hit a nice that I think it was like that 9 game winning streak. And then after that, they were losing, but they always kept sort of like they kept winning. They never went through these long sort of rough patches. And then I think like the biggest concern just going into the playoffs was that record that every time kept coming up was the record against what top teams, top 10 teams or something like that, which was really bad. And so that was then the next concern is like they can do well to get into the playoffs, but then how are we going to look? Are we going to get swept? But I thought they did well against the Cavs. I think, they just came up a little bit short. I think not having Emmanuel quickly, not having Brandon Ingram, I think it was too much for them in the end. But I would say this, I would consider this a really positive season for the Raptors, and hopefully we can continue with that. Like I've seen rumblings of people wanting to get rid of Brandon Ingram. I think this team deserves to see what we could look like with quickly, with everyone healthy, with Brandon Ingram. But yeah, in terms of this season, I thought it went well.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree. I would say with both of you. I mean, definitely they they definitely overachieved to me. I mean, I thought going into the year that this was going to be I would have been happy with them being a playing team, right? I think that's what I had predicted that they would be a playing team. Definitely didn't think they would be. You guys said top six. They were a 5 seed. I definitely didn't think they would be top five. Um, so that surprised me in terms of some people thinking that they might get swept by Cleveland or losing 5. I mean, I'm people. I thought they were gonna lose. I thought they would only get one game from Cleveland, and they pushed it to 7. So I'm ashamed to say I didn't have faith in the Raptors. Partly because you know quickly's injury history and the team just we didn't. You don't really know what the Raptors like. What you're gonna get. But I was pleasantly, surprised to see how Scotty stepped up his game in the series. Like he looked like a superstar all 7 games. He looked like a guy where it's like, okay, this is the guy you build your team with. This is the guy who's the face of your franchise. This is the guy who gets the accolades, who gets the commercials. Um, every night he brought it offensively, defensively, and then having RJ also step up. Ever since RJ got here, and then I would say it increased when they picked up Ingram last year. Is like just the talk online of well, RJ's got to go or RJ's got to be traded, and I'm like, why? Why do we got to trade RJ Barrett? He is our hometown hero. Why are we trading him? And every game he brings the effort. RJ is not a guy that you have to worry about. Is he going to play hard? Is he always going to play well? No, nobody plays well every single game, but he's always going to try hard. You can never say RJ Barrett's not trying, but you can't say that, unfortunately, throughout the regular season. You can't say that with Scotty. Scotty sometimes, for the first 3 quarters, you could tell he's coasting. And then the fourth quarter will come, and all of a sudden, he tries to turn it up. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not. Brandon Ingram, you can't say the same thing about him. But with RJ, you can't ever question his effort. So I don't understand why people would want to move him. And I think he showed that in this series, right? So to me, they overachieved. I thought they had a great year. In terms of Brandon Ingram, overall, he had a good year. He led them in scoring, 21 points a game, I think it was. Didn't like that he left the series, but then it's like now I got to walk back how I was feeling because he had surgery. I read the other day, so he had some sort of. They said it was heel inflammation, but actually he had surgery and there were like things that needed to be removed from his heel that he had been playing with since March, right? Which changes the story. So he tried to play. So I got to give him credit for trying to play on something that needed to be surgically repaired. So overall, I feel good about that.
Yeah, I think the positives were um obviously, like, that Scotty Barnes taking that next step. I thought obviously CMB, one of the best rookies all year, and I just thought,
Yeah,
like, in the
yeah,
playoffs he took it to another level and showed the rest of the
yeah,
league what we have here in Toronto with him. I think Jacoby Walter, after starting the playoffs terribly
yeah,
to make a shot, he really showed that he could be a 3-point threat and play defense. Like he was a quintessential 3-and-D guy. Jamal Shed, overachieved from what we really expected it of him. He's a backup point guard that was, thrusted into the starting lineup in the playoffs, the most important part of the season. And I thought he did amicable. He did very well. Um, RJ RJ played well. Big shot, big moments, brought the toughness that we need, that Toronto toughness that we need. RJ brought that. But the negatives, Pirtle. Pirtle was a negative. I mean, I know
big negative.
he battled injuries and different things like that, but he just doesn't give us what we need from that position. There's games where he has like 1 rebound, 2 rebounds, a 7'1", 7'2", whatever he is. No, Pirtle was a negative for sure. Quickly, he didn't play, so by default, he's a negative because he wasn't available at the most important time of the season. I don't understand how he plays the last game of the year and then we don't see him again for the like. Something doesn't. Either they didn't manage the injury properly. Maybe he was already injured. He shouldn't have played that last game. I don't know, but that was some messed up stuff. And then
No sense.
Ingram, horrible. Like the season, fine. Season was good. He played, more games than we would have expected. He was an all-star, but you do all that so that come playoffs, you are ready to go. And he was terrible in the playoffs. The games he played, he was absolutely horrible. Like Vince Carter bad. Like Vince Carter's first year in the playoffs in Toronto against the Knicks when he couldn't hit any shots, he was playing so bad. That's what Ingram looked like. He was really bad. And then he missed the last 2 games. But he did nothing the rest of the series before that. So essentially we didn't have Ingram the whole playoffs. So Ingram to me was a negative. But like as fans, we feel pretty good. We feel pretty positive. Hey, whatever. We weren't too upset. But now that the season's over and we can step back, like the reason why RJ is the one on the trading block or the one that's talked about the most is because think about what we just saw in the playoffs. Scotty Barnes was amazing. We're not trading him. CMB, we're not trading him. Quickly didn't show up. Hurdle was terrible. Ingram didn't do anything. So RJ is making at 29 million, I believe. Quickly's making about 32, and Barnes and Ingram are making max about 44 million. So RJ is the most attractive contract that we have for a guy that played pretty well in the playoffs. So if we're looking to upgrade the team and make any type of moves, he's the one. He's our most attractive trade chip. He's the one we could get the most for, and that's the reason why you hear the most about RJ. Because if we're going to trade Ingram, what are we getting for Ingram? To coming off the playoffs, he just came off. We're not getting anything for Pirtle, Quickly, Barnes. RJ is the only one now, unless RJ decides he's going into the last year of his contract. So the Raptors could play out this year at the 29 mil and let him become a free agent, potentially lose him for nothing. Or we re-up him a year early, but then he would have to work with us because If he wants max money, Scotty Barnes and Ingram money, the Raptors aren't going to do that because we can't afford to have our 3 max guys, those guys. Like we're not going to win.
You
You know
gotta
what I
move
mean?
Ingram. You gotta
So
package
you
Well,
so
Ingram.
so you
do
think we
the
should move Ingram?
Raptors, no, but do the
Yeah.
Raptors win this series if Quickly plays? Do they potentially win this series? Like
I,
we didn't get to see how they would look fully healthy, and then we're going to move RJ because we didn't win in a series where we weren't fully healthy. That's the part that I don't like. Like if we were fully fit and we just weren't enough, yes, the team needs some upgrades, but we weren't fully fit. So why are we now tinkering because we weren't good enough, but we weren't even healthy? So
But I
like I
think it's
think
because of the
that's
money,
the thing
right?
for me.
because of the money, and it's
Because
because
of the
like,
money.
do you think? Okay, do we beat Cleveland with Ingram? I mean, if Quickly plays, I'd say maybe. Do we beat Cleveland if Ingram plays the way Ingram's supposed to play and Quickly plays? I would say yes. But is that enough to win the championship or even get to the final? Do you think if we
I
have a
don't think
healthy Quickly and a healthy Ingram, do you think we have enough to get to the NBA Finals?
No,
Abby?
not this
no,
team.
not in my opinion.
No. Okay. So now if you're Bobby Webster, this is what you're thinking about. So you can be like, okay, we did pretty well. We should just bring everybody back and see how much farther we go. But then RJ's on he's a lame duck. He's on the last year of a contract. And you're taking a chance. What's up? What are you shaking your head? What's up?
Because the rumors was RJ for Sabonis. I don't think the Sabonis is making us a championship team either. Like, what is RJ getting us
I
back?
agree.
What are we getting back with RJ that's taking us to be a championship team? Is there something that we're getting back that's making us a championship team?
And that's exactly why I say forget about moving RJ and try to move Ingram. Right? I feel like you could get more. I know you said you're not going to get much for Ingram at this point, but I don't know if that's true. Like Ingram was an all-star this year, right? He was 20, 21 points a game. He led us in scoring. I don't know if
Did nothing when we needed
I,
him to.
he
Everybody
did
saw that.
nothing when we needed him, but he was hurt.
He was
We
hurt.
now know
He's
he
had
was hurt. He had
surgery.
surgery, right? He
Yeah,
had
which is the
surgery, which,
story of his
yes,
career.
that's the whole story of his career. That's a knock on him is that this guy's not hurt. So it's weird because miraculously, he was fairly healthy all season, right? Like we kept waiting for when is this guy gonna get hurt because we know eventually he's gonna get hurt. And it's
Yeah.
like he got hurt a little bit, but for the most part he played. And then all of a sudden now in the biggest moment, he was terrible, right? But we find out after the fact that actually he was playing with an injury that needed surgery. So I feel like
Yeah.
now we gotta cut him slack for that, right? So, but at the same time, get your point about the money because at the end of the day, it's all about the money. And are we trying to play? We shouldn't be trying to pay luxury tax to secure a core that can't win a championship. That doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So somebody has
Mm-hmm.
to go. But
Mm-hmm.
and I know the easy thing is to say it should be RJ, but RJ's from here. He's
Mm-hmm.
from here. You don't ever have to question his effort. And we saw how great he played. And he saved the season in game 6. How do you now say, see you later? To me, I would try to package Brandon Ingram. I know, Abby, you talked about Quickly, but I would also potentially see what can we get for Quickly because I don't like Quickly's contract either.
I'd rather move quickly than RJ.
So
Yeah,
would
I
I.
think we're all agreed on that. Yeah,
I would rather move quickly. I'd rather move Ingram, but I think we know Pirtle's unmovable. Like
yeah. Who's
apparently,
gonna want it?
apparently we like Jaren Jackson was offered to us, and we were very eager and willing to make a move for Jaren Jackson. But Pirtle was a stickler. They didn't want nothing to do with Pirtle's contract, and unless we could unload Pirtle, what are we going to do with Jaren Jackson? Like it just wouldn't make any sense.
Who did they want from us?
I don't know if they wanted bodies. They were interested in expiring contracts. So I think ultimately
Okay.
that's what Memphis got, right? And we didn't have any expiring contracts. Like we wanted to ship out
Yeah.
Pirtle, and Pirtle has a worst contract known to man. So like they said no. So that hindered us from getting Jaren Jackson Jr., which I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr.
That
with
would have
Scotty
been
Barnes, and
that would have
woo,
been
that's a game
incredible.
changer right there. right? So we're stuck
That
with
would
him,
have
and I
been
think
extravagant.
we don't want to get into another bad contract. Like RJ, if RJ's willing to be like, you know what, I'll take what,
Hometown discount.
yeah, I'll take what quickly he's getting, 32 instead of trying to get 35, 36. Because I don't think he thinks he's a max player at 44 million like Barnes. Like maybe he does, but he's not going to get max from anybody. I don't think so.
Yeah, who's going to give him that?
Right. So I think he has to be willing to budge a little bit, but how much are the Raptors willing to give him and not hinder our future plans and where we want to go and what we want to do.
Yeah.
So
And the fact that RJ was willing to say at his end of year press conference that he's not trying to go anywhere and he wants to play here for the rest of his career, I would hope that if you're willing to say that to the media, that you're also willing to take a bit of a hometown discount and understand that, okay, I'm not going to try to put these guys over a barrel and say, give me max. Because also to your point, where else are you going to go in this league and have a team offer you the max? And any team that's offering him the max, it's going to be a team like no shade to them, but it's going to be a team like Sacramento, like a team that doesn't really have a future, doesn't really have stars. That are you going to want to play there? You just said you wanted to play here for the rest of your career, so I would hope that would mean he would be willing to work with management, and hopefully management is willing to work with him. But if we need to save money, obviously moving Pirtle would be the best thing. But
he's
I would
not
be
going
shocked if
anywhere.
Bobby Webster would be able to do that. So
Not right away.
then, yeah. So now you got to look at other guys. To me, you mentioned Shed. I love the way Shed plays. Reminds me of like Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. Just not as good of a shooter, but I feel like he can improve his shot over time. So then that would make me think, okay, then maybe let's try to see what we can get for quickly. If we have Shed, let's see what we can try to get for quickly.
But
Right?
what position does every team in the league have in abundance? It's the point guard position. Like if you think about
Yeah.
all the teams, almost every team
But
has a
he's not
pretty
even a real
decent
point
point
guard.
guard, and he's not even
He's
a
not
real
even a real
point guard,
point guard.
right? And
Right?
he doesn't defend. It's like he's fine, and we can move him, but I mean, it'll be like a lateral move. We'll be getting rid of quickly just for the sake of getting rid of quickly. You know what I mean? Like I would
Well, it would
love.
be unless it helps you secure RJ.
Is that a winning combination? Is that like I love Trey Murphy Jr. from the Pelicans. That guy, how many games this year he's hit 5 threes, 6 threes. He's a defender. He's a 3-and-D guy. I mean, dare I say he's better than RJ. I don't want to necessarily get rid of RJ, but you have to give something to get something. Like, would you move RJ and Pirtle? No. Well, who's gonna take Pirtle? I just said that, and now I'm trying to move Pirtle. That's just for fun. RJ and Pirtle for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Fertile for Jaylen Brown. I mean, of course, I would do it if I'm the Raptors.
I know. What kind of
Boston
But
would
why
never
would
do that.
Boston take
There's
that?
like a trade. There's like a trade machine. Like that's not gonna happen.
That'll never
Why would
happen.
Boston? Why would Boston ever take that?
Well, why would Boston ever take that? Because just this week alone, Jaylen Brown came out and made some statements that were quite controversial and, raised some eyebrows around the league.
Style of play a little bit more, but I know playoffs kind of shifted our rotations and what we wanted to do. But I'm so proud, and it was my favorite year of my basketball career.
Okay. As we know,
Masterful.
as we know, Boston was up 3-1 against Philadelphia. Against Philadelphia. Like everybody was celebrating. I filled out a bracket. I have Boston going to the finals. I'm sure most people at least had them going to the conference finals, right? Especially when they got up 3-1 on the Philadelphia team with no Embiid.
I was
And then
looking forward to Detroit versus Boston.
Me too. And then Embiid came back, and then all of a sudden Boston couldn't do anything. They couldn't hit any more shots. And Tatum gets hurt. They lose game 7 at home. They lost every game at home in this series, which was funny. They lost every single game at home and ended up losing the series, so they blew a 3-1 lead. So it's pretty bad, just no matter how you want to spin it and look at it. Jaylen Brown, after the fact, goes on his pod, and first he was complaining about Embiid saying, "Oh, Embiid was flopping, he's a flopper," and all that. Which sound you were up 3-1, so that sounded like poor, sour grapes a little bit when you say that. And plus, everybody flops, including him. Um, but the one that really got the most attention was the fact that he said that he likes Boston and he wants to stay in Boston his whole career and everything. However, this was the best season of his career, or the most fun he's had in playing basketball, right? And a lot of people are like, especially Boston fans, like, what do you mean? Like, you're up 3-1 and we lost a 3-1 lead. Can you imagine if Scotty Barnes, if we are 3-1 to a team we should beat and we lost, and Scotty Barnes said, "Oh, this is just the best season I've ever had." I feel like people in Toronto would roast him, right? So Jaylen Brown was getting roasted, not just from people in Boston, from like other players. Jeff Teague made comments, Andrew Perkins made comments, Stephen A. and him went back and forth. So based on that scenario and based on that comment that he made, what do you guys feel about that?
I feel like Jaylen Brown. So for years, a lot of people have been saying this whole like the two J's, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and this whole 1A, 1B, who's better. And I feel like with these comments, I think we're finally seeing that Jaylen Brown, I don't think he likes that dynamic of playing with Tatum, because why would you say the year that Tatum is out for a torn Achilles, that's your favorite year? You ended up losing a 3-1 lead to be eliminated in the first round. But Jaylen Brown personally was an MVP talk, right? So he was an all-star. He was an MVP talk. People saying, "Oh man, Jaylen Brown's leading Boston. Boston is having a way better season than we all expected," right? So he's hearing all these things, and he is a guy who is online, right? We know this. He's going back and forth with Stephen A. He's live streaming while playing video games. He is finding ways to turn his whole hair spray fiasco into like endorsements and trending online. So this is a guy who's online. He knows the talk. He knows what people are saying. And he saw that, okay, these people are saying I'm an MVP. These people are saying I'm leading Boston I got Boston overachieving. I think what we're seeing is that he doesn't want to play with Jason Tatum. Right? So, and according to Stephen A., Jason Tatum has never been on Jaylen Brown's show, but Jaylen Brown has had other guys on his show. So it kind of reminds me of like Tracy McGrady, when Tracy McGrady was playing with Vince. And we saw that eventually after he left and went to Orlando, and he made certain comments, "Oh, it's the Vince Carter show up in Toronto, like I had to get away." I feel like maybe that's what we're seeing here with Jaylen Brown. I feel like he wants to be the guy, and he doesn't want to have Jason Tatum next to him. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I'm reading it.
That's why the Raptors should try to make a trade for him. What do you think, Abby?
I mean, I think he slipped up when you're talking and he said this was the best year of his career, and you're like, "Oh, actually the most fun." No, it was the best year of his career. So of course he thought this was the most fun. He's averaging more points, more rebounds, more assists, and he got Boston second. Yes, Jason Tatum came at the end, but Jaylen Brown basically led them to second, and he had the best stats of his career. Of course, this was his best. Like, if you've played sports from a personal point of view,
but you won a championship, Abby. He's a champion, Finals MVP.
Yeah, but this
is your most favorite.
But he's probably, I don't think he's talking from I'm sure if you asked him right after they got eliminated, he's maybe not saying this. This is probably him looking back. Time has passed. It's been a week, or I don't know when he said this on his podcast. And now he's thinking about the whole season.
A couple days after.
Not crashing out. And he's probably thinking this was the best he's ever looked. MVP talks, like you said. And not just, because some players can play good, but then the team's not, the team sucks. You just get it putting empty stats. He was actually helping them win. So for him, he's probably thinking, okay, like, I am capable, because who knows, maybe in his head he's thought he's capable, but you never know if you're always playing next to Jason Tatum. He finally had an opportunity this season to test it, and he helped them get second. So I'm not surprised that he thought this was his most fun season. I don't see why he can't say that. Like, I think he should be able to say that. It's a personal opinion.
Are you surprised with him maybe not giving some nuance into that, right? Because when you just say that after losing a 3-1 lead, it doesn't look good. Like I said, if Scotty Barnes has said that, would you feel okay with that? Or you'd probably be like, what the hell? So he didn't give enough. Like he didn't say, "Oh, personally, I did well, but the team should have done better. I'm disappointed with the team, but I'm personally happy." He just kind of said, "This is the best season ever." Just left it at that for interpretation, and I think that's where he's getting the criticism. Do you think he should have, you know what I mean, or no?
I don't know. I don't think him saying it was his best season, he's not saying he didn't like the championship season. It could have been that he liked this season, the championship season was like here. I don't know why it
But
has to be on.
Isn't that odd?
that's why people are upset that he's happier in the season where they blew a 3-1 lead versus a season where he won the championship and was the MVP. That's why people are coming at him.
I mean,
They
this
they
is
think he's
why
being selfish.
there's a whole other conversation around whether players should be having podcasts, but this is what happens when active players have podcasts is they'll say things that are
Yeah.
controversial enough. For
Yeah,
me, if he was talking with his buddies, he could, why can't he say that? If that's how he feels, that's how he feels. But because it's
that's how he
broadcast
feels.
to everyone, now everyone has all these opinions that it's wrong and this and that. But he can't
Yeah.
help how he feels. That's how
Yeah.
he feels.
That's true. That is true. On the one hand, for years, people always used to be like, you talk to these athletes, you ask them these questions, and they're just giving you these cookie cutter responses, and you're not really getting the truth. But what these podcasts have done is it has exposed what some of these guys actually truly think. And then it's like, once you hear what they think, then people are dissing them for it. It's like, oh, why do you think like that? You should think the way I want you to think, right? But it's like, he's the guy who's in the situation. So he is the one who knows how it feels. So I guess to Abby's point, I understand if all year you have been the man and your team is playing great. You've been in the 2 seed, you've been in MVP conversations, people are picking you to be a championship contender, and you are the man. And Jason Tatum is on the sideline. Then I get, if you in that context, then I get why he would say, "Man, this is great. I wish every season could be like this." I understand, but the optics, it looks terrible because you squandered 3-1 lead in the playoffs, and you're saying, "Oh, well, for me personally, this was fantastic." It's like Steph Curry in 2016 after losing 3-1 to Cleveland, saying, "Well, I mean, hey, but we won 73 games. I won back-to-back MVPs. I had a
Here's
great
the
year,
difference.
right?" But
Here's the difference, though. But Steph Curry is universally loved. Like, I don't think there's anybody that does not like Steph Curry. Jaylen Brown is not universally loved. Like, a lot of people, crap on Jaylen Brown, not necessarily the players, but like the media. Like, a lot of people in the media say this and that about Jaylen Brown because he's not the most smiley face guy and he may come across a little bit controversial. He makes statements, Black Lives Matters, like all the kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Where Jason Tatum is, the clean cut guy, and Jason Tatum, since he came in this league, we've been told that he's the man in Boston. Jaylen Brown has been told that Jason Tatum is better than him. That's all he hears from everybody. No matter what he does, he's not better than Jason Tatum. So they go into the playoffs and their first finals against Golden State, Brown actually outplayed him. I think he averaged like 23 and 7, where Tatum was like 21 and 5 or something like that. Right? The first one against Golden State, the one they lost. And then they come back and they go against Dallas, and Brown wins the MVP. Despite Tatum scoring more points, averaging more rebounds. Um, but Brown still won because his defense was phenomenal and he shot a much better percentage. It just came across like he just looked like he was having a better series to me. It looked like Tatum was just jacking a bunch of shots. So Brown ends up winning the Finals MVP, and all he hears after that is the second best player on the team won the Finals MVP. How come Jason Tatum didn't win the Finals MVP? That's all they kept hearing is, and then the Olympic team, the thing, he let me get picked for the Olympic team. You know what I mean? So he's the guy. And this whole season, coming into the season, like you mentioned, Vincent, they were saying that Boston, this was a gap year. Like Jason Tatum's not there. Just because Jason Tatum's not there, all of a sudden this is a gap year. Yeah, I know they lost Horford and other people, but still, it was mainly because Tatum wasn't going to
and
be there. They're like,
Porzingis, yeah,
this team isn't going to go anywhere. This team isn't going to do anything. So if I'm Brown, I'm like, okay, let me show you. And what does he do? He gets him the second seed. The second seed, he's top 5 probably MVP candidate this year. He's not going to win it, but he's top 5. And all you kept hearing is, "Oh, Tatum's coming back. Tatum's coming back. Tatum come back." And then Jason Tatum comes back, right? And they're still winning, but I think Brown just felt like no matter what I do, I don't get the respect from the media and from the people that know the game. And I think he's probably at that Shaq and Kobe time where Kobe wanted to prove to people, listen, I can win without Shaq. And it's funny you brought up McGrady because McGrady was the one that came out that said he spoke to Brown and he knows that Brown's unhappy and wants some respect. It's funny McGrady's the one that said that Brown wants some respect. So I do feel that maybe he doesn't love necessarily playing with Jason Tatum. He doesn't hate playing with Jason Tatum, but he's probably like, listen, I was the finals MVP, not him. I got this team to the second seed. Put people around me, not Peyton Pritchard and all these guys that nobody knows that the Boston was playing in the playoffs. Like, have him on the team with Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly and CMB. And then let's see what Jaylen Brown could do then. Like, I'm 100% convinced Jaylen Brown could be the man. And I think that's probably where his his comments are coming from. Right? That's what I think his comments coming from.
I think what we've seen over the years is that it takes a certain type of personality to be okay with being the wingman and being the second guy. Because even years later, like Scottie Pippen, who was the quintessential wingman, years later we see actually, oh, this guy has a lot of resentment towards Michael Jordan with all his comments and stuff like that. Like over time, people feeling disrespect. All these guys in the NBA are great players, right? You don't make the NBA without being a great player in your own right. So now you get there, but now you keep hearing that another guy is better than you. And then it's one thing if you actually know, yeah, no, he's better. But if you don't actually agree that this guy is better than you, the way Tracy didn't think Vince was better than him, or the way Jaylen Brown clearly doesn't think Jason Tatum is better than him, then obviously it's going to be a problem, right? Like it's going to be a problem. And eventually, these guys are human, right? So these things are going to eventually come out. People can say, yeah, but you should put the team first. It's all about winning and this and that, which is all well and good. But at the end of the day, you're a human being, right? And certain things are going to bother you. We saw Kevin Durant had everything made for him in Golden State, but he still left. Why? Because him and Draymond, they clashed. Draymond told him, we don't need you. We won before you got here, right? So, and he left, right? So these guys are human, right? That's all I can say is it's not a good look. I don't think optics wise for Jaylen Brown, but I get where it's coming from.
I get it, and I agree with him.
Me personally, I feel like I would take Jaylen Brown over Tatum personally. I feel like he is the better player, not by much, but I feel like he is the better player. So if I'm thinking that, I know he has to be thinking that. So I get it.
Yeah. Especially when you win the Larry Bird Eastern Conference player going into the finals. And then when you win your championship, you are the one that's crowned the finals MVP. How are you then going to leave thinking, oh, he's better than me, even though everybody's saying that he's better than you? So of course that's going like if Jaylen Brown ends up leaving Boston and those two split up, it's the media. It's the media. They're gonna blame him, but the media from day one has been saying that Jason Tatum is the best player on the team. They don't even say, oh, there's a duo and it's Tatum and Brown. It's always Tatum is the best and Brown is number 2, no matter what. Yeah. So that's why he's going to want to leave. That's why he's going to want to get out of there. He's not going to demand a trade, but I'm sure he wouldn't be upset to get his own situation for sure.
Tatum benefiting from, the light skin privilege. Let's just be real here. Like, what is he? Why isn't Jaylen Brown? Why is he just put him on a pedestal? Well, why did they put him on a pedestal when you all have described just how good Jaylen Brown has been? Equally as good, sometimes better. But they want to keep pushing that Jason Tatum's got to be the face of Boston. This light skinned guy, you said he doesn't have an attitude. They don't think he has an attitude. Like, I don't see Jaylen Brown as someone who's angry all the time. Like, I don't necessarily perceive him that way. But I wonder if some of it is just in their mind. They just look at him and they think, oh yeah, any little attitude that maybe Jason Tatum would show, they would brush it off. But if they see it in Jaylen Brown, of course, Jaylen Brown's got an attitude. Like, I don't know. I think that some of that has to do with, you
Yeah.
know,
Jason Tatum has the good hair. He has a good
yeah.
hair that people ain't pulling, right? So he has that good hair that people ain't pulling, right, Abby?
But the big thing that is causing controversy is that a lot of the players who seem to be getting their hair pulled are players of color. A lot of them black players, they have braids, extensions. Also white players too with longer ponytails. But a lot of players of color are the ones that are getting their hair pulled. And the people who are doing the hair pulling have been white mostly. And so we're seeing a segment of fans online who feel like this is some sort of microaggressions. These white people just want to be grabbing at the people's hair. And then we've got other set of fans who are now saying, well, the hair is too long and we need to set minimum lengths.